Hi, everyone. My name's Alexisblairpenney, and this is my astrology practice. I call my business Star Service for a few reasons. I really like to reach into the idea that everybody is a star, right? In some way, in some area of your life, you have gifts that are wanting to be expressed. I love the stars because they give us perspective. When we look up at the stars at night, if you happen to be lucky enough to live in a place where you can see the stars at night, they really land us in the bigger, way bigger than us and our normal frame of references reality of the cosmos. And I love how generous the stars are. They give light and heat without really any understanding of what may be ever given back. What can I give back to the sun, without which I would not have a life, right? There would be no life on the planet. So that's kind of the question that I've been troubling with this practice that I call Star Service. So I'm talking today about why you might want to explore a holistic astrology reading from me through Star Service. So a few things first. What is astrology? So astrology is both, for me, a divinatory practice and a devotional practice. So divinatory really briefly just means that I'm divining. So I am using a skill or technique or practice to receive information from the larger field of things. So you could call that field of intelligence and connectivity spirit. You could call it the divine. You could call it God. You could call it the, complex system, the self-organization of the complex system that is the cosmos, that kind of thing. There's a lot of ways to think about it. You don't have to necessarily carry any belief system or understanding or prior experience. I just ask you as a client to lean into the hypothesis that there are larger intelligences out there that are really interacting with us and interconnected with us, and that we can access those intelligences in ways that give us information that help us to make different choices in our lives. I also consider it devotional in the idea that, for me at least, the planets, the heavenly bodies, and the larger field is a larger intelligence that has and takes different forms with which I can directly relate. And others, anyone has access potentially to directly relate to these energies. So I consider the planets other than human energies. They have the quality for me of both elemental, so these really core essential energies in the cosmos, and archetypal, which are like these true code energies by which everything else kind of proliferates through their different dances and all the different forms and shapes that they take. So the devotion aspect for me is about coming into direct relationship with these energies and really letting their sort of play or masquerade ball that they are undertaking as the planets really teach me about how that larger field is also being expressed here in my more personal human field of things. I also consider astrology a mode of direct experiencing. So for me, I try to land all of my reading and practicing in the shamanic cosmology with which I practice. So I'm studying this cosmology, and I've been studying it for several years. It's called the cycle cosmology, and it comes out of a body of teachings called the cycle teachings that were revealed by my teacher, Christina Pratt, and it's held by a community called Last Mass Community. And so this cosmology helps me to land the information that I'm receiving through my divinatory practice of astrology in something other than either contemporary United States culture, which is, like, no offense, not the healthiest culture right now, never has been. And I'm being kind and, understanding with that language. And it's also not landed for me in Hellenistic Greek culture, as many traditional astrologers do, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just that's not my culture. You know what I mean? I don't really understand the context within which some of these more traditional astrological texts were written. I can't claim to understand it. And frankly, I don't really need to, because it's not my culture now. But what I do know about Hellenistic Greece, or Mesopotamia or Egypt 2, 3, 4, 5,000 years ago doesn't really make me feel like that's the culture that I want to continually support and create through my practice. So I'm actually reaching into this cultural cosmology that's based on some really simple principles, like you are a soul that has chosen to take a body. You have gifts that you're here to grow and express through your relationships, developing through all the different challenges and experiences and joys and successes and failures, etc., that you experience through your life, all in service of something much larger than you. Again, the idea of the service to both the stars and the planet without which we wouldn't have a perspective to view the stars or experience any of this, right? So for me, the astrology gives me a direct experience of what that could be, because by feeling into and directly relating with the planetary placements in the zodiac and the house system and all the different functions of an astrological chart, I can feel the essence of what it means to be whole. Not like, well, Capricorn is just a bad sign. It's just a materialistic sign. And Geminis are all liars. You know what I mean? And if you have this placement, you have this affliction and all of that stuff. It's really opening up the field of astrology to reclaim its wholeness. It is a whole wheel when we look at the chart. It can't, one side can't function without the other. And I don't think that any of us are just here to suffer through having bad placements, malefics, you know, that kind of thing, afflictions, how the traditional astrologers can sometimes refer to it. For me, it's about reclaiming the balance and the wholeness and the true belonging, both as people that are part of the earth and as earth beings that are connected to the cosmos and the larger than human field, the larger than material field, the intelligence that is all around us and within us. So that's where I land my practice. That's how I practice. What can an astrology reading do? Why would you want to do it? So it helps you to understand yourself. The idea is that the planets were all somewhere when you were born. And so we lay those out on the zodiac and the house system, and it creates this thumbprint that we call your natal chart. So that shows us the connectivity between personal and larger field in a way that we can divine opportunities, things to explore, essential aspects of your nature that you may not have ever experienced in quite this way, but that on some level, most people already know about themselves. So it can be both very validating and also uniquely challenging to hear someone reflect back to you something that maybe you didn't necessarily want to know about yourself. But ultimately, the act is of empowerment. So it's actually learning from that experience more about how I naturally inhabit myself, how I habitually do, what may have happened to throw some of my more essential nature out of whack, and what I can do to actually bring that into balance so that those things can be expressed in the ways that they want to be expressed in service of the larger harmony of the system, of both the self system and the larger field. It also helps me to really land in the current moment and understand the weather, because the planets don't just like stick where they are, right? They're constantly moving. So we get an access to both the birth chart, where I was, where everything was when I was born, and also where things are now. And that relationship creates this dynamic tension. I think of it sometimes like, you know, I'm from a place called Lenexa, Kansas. I'll always carry that with me. I grew up there, you know, I carry that in my DNA to a certain degree. But if I'm in, say, Scotland, my feeling, my experience, the weather, everything is very different. So I'm holding that tension between who I am, where I was from, and where I am currently, right? I've lived a lot of places, so I'm constantly kind of in that conversation with myself. And so it's a similar idea for me. It's like, this is who I am. This is what's happening right now. How do those two things intersect, clash potentially? How can I bring myself into more harmony with both who I am and what's happening now, so that I can work with these currents? You know, when you feel like, oh my God, I had this crazy idea, and then suddenly everyone around me starts having this idea, right? Like there's a lot of buzzwords that are up right now in the culture: community, collectivity, mutual aid, that kind of thing. It's not like any one person invented that, right? It's bubbling up in this emergent quality that to me, the astrology can really show us opportunities for working more skillfully and effectively and sustainably with the larger currents. And it helps me develop relationship with both myself, my own inner aspects, my gifts, my challenges, etc., and also with others and sort of this larger field of things. If I understand my, say, Pluto generation, the placement that was placed, around folks about 15 years on either side of me, including me, then I can really understand this larger current of what's happening in my generation and where we could, I can look at both the pretty mirrors and the not so pretty mirrors and reflections back of that and with people in my generation and start to kind of understand where I want to align myself, how I want to contribute to that and pull my crap out of it and etc. So there's a lot of ways in which an astrology reading can really help us discover both gifts, opportunities, reframe challenges, reclaim empowerment from things that feel disempowering, validate and affirm things that we already know about ourselves, and lean into places of discomfort where we actually need to resource new practices, new ways of being, new ways of doing to bring ourselves online more fully. So I really think this work is fun. It's super interesting for me. I learned so much from every reading because we're all connected, right? And everyone has every sign in their chart. And I find it to be one of the primary ways in which I'm landing myself in the moment, discovering new aspects of myself, and bringing those aspects online in a healthier way. So I hope you'll consider booking me. You can email me with any questions, concerns, comments, etc., how you received this video, how you've worked with the astrology in the past. And if you want to book me, just shoot me an email and I'll send you my schedule. Hope to hear from you so soon. Thank you so much.